When you first open GarageBand, you'll be greeted by this screen, and you want to choose New Project, and we're going to be working with loops, so choose Loops and press the Choose button. It's going to create your project file, and so you need to go ahead and give this a name. And the tempo, signature, and key you can adjust later if you like. So we'll press Create, and it's going to open the GarageBand project window. In GarageBand, you use tracks to layer and create an audio project. So let's go ahead and explore the track options. If you press the plus button, you'll get this dialog where you can choose between software instrument, real instrument, and electric guitar. Now, a software instrument is going to be instrument sounds that are created by GarageBand using things like virtual instruments that you can trigger with a MIDI controller or the on-screen keyboard. The other option is real instrument, and this is going to be recordings that you make into GarageBand, usually through a microphone. Electric guitar is essentially the same as real instrument, except you get a virtual electric guitar amplifier. We're going to choose real instrument for now and explore some of the options there. So when you create a real instrument track, you get this dialog over here. And if you're recording from a microphone, you're going to want to choose mono, because most microphones record in mono. Monitoring is whether or not the sound is going to play back over your speakers or headphones. If you don't have headphones, you should turn the monitoring off so that the sound coming out of your speakers doesn't get recorded again by your microphone. And lastly, there's a recording level, which you'll be able to adjust with certain microphones. The other kind of track you can create is a software instrument track. If you choose software instrument and press create, you get different options. And these options are different kinds of instruments built into GarageBand. The options range from pianos and keyboard to synthesizer leads to drum kits. This is the Loops button, and clicking it opens up the Loops browser, where all the loops on your computer installed in GarageBand are sorted by their type. You can use these keywords up here to sort through loops. So let's say I want to go ahead and grab some drums to get started on my project. When the loop browser opens up all the drum loops, you can see several different pieces of information. The first column tells you whether the track is software instrument or real audio. The real audio is indicated by a blue waveform, and a software track is indicated by a green musical note icon. I'm going to choose this jazzy drum set beat to get my project started. If I drag this out, it's going to create this blue region and also a new real instrument track. This means that the jazzy drum set is an actual recording of a drum set and not a software instrument. Now, if I want to loop this, I'm going to move my cursor to the top right corner until it turns into a curled arrow and drag that out for the number of measures that I want the drums to last. If measures don't mean anything to you, you can adjust the display to show you the time. Another important option here is the project settings. This will show you the key, tempo, and time signature of your project. Now, it's important to note here that the tempo of the drums is 152, so things will work out better if the tempo of the track matches that. So we can click on tempo and change that to 152. Alright, so now we have a drum track laid down. Let's go ahead and fill that in with piano. So I'm going to choose piano, and I'm going to choose jazz. It's important here that if I choose a real instrument loop that has the same tempo as the project. If I choose a software loop, it will actually realign the track to match the tempo. Now, it's good that our tempos match up, and if we look at the loop I just chose, we see it's in the key of C. It's important when you're working with music to basically keep all of your loops in the same key. So let's say I chose a loop in the key of D. What would happen? As you can see, it sounds really dissonant and noisy, and that's because the keys C and D are dissonant with one another. So it's always best to make sure that your loops are in the same key. Now, we can loop this like before, or let's say you want to have a break and you want the loop to play once, and then you want to start playing again after a drum break. To do that, all you have to do is hold down the Option key and drag the piano loop, and it will create a duplicate. Now I want some bass to complement my drum and piano, and I'll go ahead and show you another way to look for loops, and that's using the search function. Down here I can type in bass, and Garageband will pull up all of the bass loops that I have. Note that the search function only searches by name, so for example, typing in something like animal sounds wouldn't bring up a result named bark. Now I'm looking for something in the key of C, so I'm going to sort it by key and look through C. And I want something to go with what I already have, so I'm going to choose this cool upright bass. And I'm going to drag that. And I drag that into my project to create a new track. It's always better to keep different instruments in different tracks, so it's easy to mix them together and take them out if you don't like them. And speaking of mixing, we can adjust the volume levels of tracks relative to one another over here using these sliders. So say my drums are a little too loud, I can turn them down just a little bit so that they complement the piano and the bass better. And I might want to turn down the bass a little bit too. And once the mix is finished, we need to pay attention to the master volume level of the track. So if you look down here, you'll see an indicator and a slider, and if I play my track back, you can see that the color of the bars is in the red. This means that when I export my song, the audio is going to sound distorted. So to fix that, we can drag the slider back and turn down the master volume of the track. And as you can see, now it's not peaking in the yellow and red anymore. Another way to control the track's volume is through the master volume track. If you come up to track and click show master track, this option appears and we're going to enable it. And now we can do things like fade our music out. So if we want to fade, for instance, we would click near the end of the track and place a key point on the volume track, and then shortly after place another one and drag the volume on it down until it reaches -144. And if we play the track back now, we can see that the sound is fading out at the end and following the trend of the key points we placed. And there we have it. We have a short song, and now we're ready to share it. So to do that, we're going to come up here to the menu and choose Share, and we'll choose Export Song to Disk. And we have a couple of options here. We can either compress the song, which will give us the choice between the Apple Audio Codec encoder and the MP3 encoder, or we can leave it uncompressed. Now we always recommend that you export an uncompressed version of your project so that you have a master track to go back to, and if you need to create a smaller file size, you can then create a compressed MP3. So I'm going to uncheck compress and choose export, and it's going to ask me where I want to export it and what I would like to call it, and I'm happy with the way it is, so I'll just press save. And now here, GarageBand.aif is my final product.